I'm an academic. I'm a professor of cognitive neuroscience at Birkbeck, University of London, and my research focuses on the vestibular system. The vestibular system is a beautiful, sophisticated organ inside the inner ear, which detects each movement of our head in space and translate the movement in terms of angular and linear acceleration. So this is a vestibular system which is deeply inside our inner ear and is the sensory modality that can detect gravity and provide gravitational information to our brain. So I absolutely love it because it has been largely neglected in neuroscience. It's very difficult to study. So the vestibular system, compared to all the other sensory modality, is always on. We cannot switch it off. You can close your eyes, you stop seeing. You can close your ear, you will not hear sounds, but you cannot do that with the vestibular system. So it's always constantly telling your brain where you are in space. So my research is basically looking at how the brain builds up a representation of terrestrial gravity by using these vestibular signals, as well as how we use gravity to interact with our environment here on Earth, as well as what happened to our brain and behavior when the comfort of gravity is not longer there, such as during spaceflight. During my school days, I really enjoy maths, science, and arts. I was going to school in the morning, in the afternoon, and every afternoon after schools, I was also doing ballet. So I'm training ballet, and I've done that for about 20 years. So it was not really an hobby. I think it was more like a passion. I was really dedicated to that. I love it. So during ballet training, you really develop a sense of focus, a sense of discipline, as well as mental strength, resilience, and creativity as self-expression. So you might not think about that, but yes, I can see an overlap between ballet training and research training. I realized that I wanted to be an academic pretty soon when I started university. The idea of freedom of expression, cultivating your own ideas, developing research questions, being curious, being in an environment that is intrinsically open and to different perspectives. So I got in love with academia immediately when I was at the beginning of my university journey. I've done a BSc in psychology, and at that point I really realized that what I wanted to understand is how the brain works, and in particular how the human brain works in a challenging environment, and space is the most challenging environment that I can think about. So I had a very linear trajectory from my BSc to my master to a PhD, postdoc, and faculty job. So I embarked in a BSc in psychology followed by a master in psychology. The type of program that I attended, it was rather interactive program as well as multidisciplinary program. So I had the opportunity to take internship during my academic journey, both in clinical settings as well as in research lab. And then I was also working because I needed to work. So I was teaching ballet to kids. My typical work day is something that is not easy to describe, because one of the most fascinating aspects of being an academic is the flexibility of what I need to do every day. So the tasks are very different, and each day looks a little bit different compared to the previous one. Now, the job is actually much more than research or teaching. Is research, teaching, and admin duties. So meaning that I'm doing very different tasks during my week. So my Thursday start with a lab meeting with other researcher and the people in my team, my PhD students and my research assistant. So we check the progress of the week and we discuss some data that we have collected. We discuss new ideas, or we also discuss research from other groups in order to have a debate about what they have done, what does it mean, and what we can do next. So after that, I have some meetings with colleagues or students, and in the afternoon, I do lectures. So I do teaching activities. I'm lecturing in neuroscience, so I deliver lecture. The Fridays are my writing days. So one important aspect of being an academic is communicating my finding, and I'm taking the Fridays as a intense writing days in which I'm writing research papers, or I write grants in order to get funding for my own research. People were supporting me a lot during my journey, but I also had to figure it out the way of, express my voice, express the fact that, yes, I'm in charge of my own research. These are my ideas. This is the way in which I'm doing it. And also I think that we should not really suppress the fact that we are women. I do love fashion. I don't care. I can be a scientist who likes fashion, and that's fine. And it can be both, because that's how our brain is. It's diverse, so don't suppress yourself. Express yourself, being able to express yourself and express the fact that you are a woman, even in a sector that is men-dominated. I don't see anything wrong about that. How can I not love it? It's the most amazing job. It's probably because of the diversity of the job, as well as the opportunities that are related to the job. So I love what I'm researching, and I love what I'm teaching, and I can work on something that I'm passionate about. The second aspect is the freedom of doing my own research. So at this stage of my career, I can think about the research questions that are relevant for me, and I can develop these questions and try to answer these questions, which is incredibly interesting and challenging. And the third aspect, I would say, is mentoring students. So there is something extremely rewarding in supporting students and help them through their journey in becoming a researcher or an academic or whatever they want to become. In order to become an academic and an academic researcher, I also believe that it's important to have hands-on experience, be exposed to different research environment, try to understand what you really like, because for me, it would be very difficult to do research on a topic that I'm not passionate about. And each of us is passionate about a particular topic, and that's your own topic. So try to understand what makes you happy, what makes you excited about science, and go for that.